Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another airbrushing step by step. Today's video is Zombie Nurse. This is what we're doing today. Here's some of the products we are using in today's video. So they're the products we're using in the video, guys. There's some of them, but I'm going to talk you through the other ones now because I've pulled loads of stuff out. I always do this. I'll do a little clip on a video and think, right, yeah, that's all we need, but there's loads more. So I'm going to run through the bits now. Nice and simple, nothing complicated. We've got some other paint, but it's mixed the same sort of ratios as the one you've seen in that little video clip. So we've got some red, we've got wicked red, a wicked yellow, which is mixed straight isopropanol. A few drops of the paint to the ISO, nice thin mix, because we're dropping a bit of colour on this as well. This is basically a monochrome portrait, but I want to just spice it up a bit by dropping some of the colours that are on the actual original image. Instead of going for the full colour version, I just want to do it sort of monochrome and then drop the red in. I want to do the bits around the eyes and make them pop so it stands out. So we've got the Payne's grey, we've got some red, I've got some yellow, I've got some FW Inks white, I've got some FW Inks black mixed up, because on this actual image there'll be some real dark areas, like around the back where the back of the neck is sort of very dark here. There's a band on the top, there's a few real darks. I just want to tone it down with some of the darks, just go over and just start to knock it back a bit. So we've got that. Cleaning products, because people have been asking on the channel, what do you use when you're using inks? Because a lot of the airbrush cleaners are very mild. I always use 2K thinners because I'm using solvent paints and painting sort of automotive bits. I've always got 2K thinners to hand, and it just blasts through any acrylics or inks, just cleans it really well. So we've got that, and I've also got, which is really good, is the Save-R spray, which is an aerosol, and you get your little pipe on the end, so you can literally push it into the cup of the airbrush, blast through with your trigger down, and it just cleans it very quick. So we can use that for quick cleaning. We've got two brushes. We're using the Iwata Custom Takumet on a 018 for the portrait, for the whole of the portrait, and then we've got a bit of background. So I'm going to use the Arda and Steenbeck Geraldes on a 02 just to get this background in. Now, bits I've done off camera, because you can see it here, I've got it all penciled out already. So I projected it up, moved the projector back, left the projector running, consistently running, penciled all the internal bit in, the details and all the bits on the centre, and then I put some application tape onto the paper and just penciled round the outside of her. So I can chop that out, I can mask off the internal, because we're going to drop the background in first. The reason why I'm dropping the background on this and not going for a white background is because on the actual image, I'll pop the image up now, where you can see her hat, you've got a lot of white at the top of that. Now, to make that sort of pop, you need a dark behind it, and you can see on the top there, you've got the background, it's quite dark at the top. That's what makes that white pop. Down the side of her hair as well, when you zoom in on that, that's just basically a solid white band going all the way down the side. So I need to have a darker colour here for that to stand out and pop, because I'm using the original white on the paper. And then the little hair strands that come over out on that side piece there, we're going to use an artist brush with neat white paint ink, and we can put the very fine hair strands in, and that will go over the dark background and make them stand out. So you always need a dark when you see a bright highlight. There's always a dark next to it which makes that pop. You'll notice this when you look at your artwork now, you'll always see them highlights, them real sharp bright highlights, there's always a darker tone next to it just to make that stand out, because that's basically, any of the highlights on this is basically the white of the paper. So you've got a bit down the side of the face here, which I'll have to keep really, really sort of clean. I don't get any sort of paint on it, keep it nice and sharp. That's the white of the paper as we come down. Bits on the hat, bits on the hair. There's a bit on the arm, down the sides. On this side, there's a real bright highlight there. But the rest of it on the internals here, if I need to get a real sharp highlight, I can use artist brush or airbrush and go in and just pop the highlights in with some white and just pop them out. All the bits we're using, we've got, for cleaning, kitchen towel. I always cut the kitchen towel up into small little squares. It's nice and easy because then you can just push it into your cup, spin it around in the cup, wipe your brush round, and little squares, it's easy. Then having the big pieces of the kitchen towel, just cut it into 4 pieces. Job done. We've got some shields, my standard Melee ones, if you're wondering what sort of shields I've got. These were old fire stencils. You can make your own shapes. I've done that in videos on the channel, show you how to make your little shapes and stuff. You can just cut some random shapes out just to shield off, like around the eyes. You'll see me working with this. Eraser, if there's any unwanted lines as we're painting, or I want to get rid of some as we paint, I can just erase them out. Anything else? Air pressure, we're running low down. We're going around, probably around about 8 psi, 7 or 8 psi. I'll up the pressure for the bit around the background, probably about 20 psi for the background. Blast that out. Piece of paper to the side for testing. Dred Effects tip tool, so I'm not going to worry about tip dry. I can just buzz down, run it through that, and we can just keep cracking on. But I don't suffer from much tip dry with this, with these mixes with the ISO. Very, very rare I get tip dry. So that's all the bits covered. I'm going to stick you in time lapses as well, because this will take about 3.5 to 4 hours to complete. I can't sort of have that amount of footage to try and edit. It's a lot of memory space, guys, it really is. So I'm going to break this up. So I'm going to do you a bit of live airbrushing, talking you through. Then we'll jump into a time lapse, and you'll see a time lapse chunk. So if I do like a chunk of her head like that, and then that gets done in a time lapse, I will stop, talk you through that, what you've just seen in the time lapse. Then I'll jump you back into live sort of airbrushing with the other camera, and then jump into a time lapse and compile it together that way. But I will do intervals, and I'll just talk through like this and just tell you what I've done. So you'll get to pick up on this. This is sort of an advanced one. Beginners can have a go at it though. I'll leave a link in the description to the image, and I'll leave the links in the description to the brushes, the paints, the ISO that I'm using, just sort of the bits that you're using as we go on this. All the little bits like shields and things and all the other bits you can source, not a problem. So we will crack on, we'll move the camera in, and then we'll start the background. See you in a minute. Right guys, we are going to start the background. I've got a little bit of FW grey mixed up. I'm just going to do a pass, go like darken it out of the top, sort of lighten it, and then just dark around the back. It's just nice, sort of fading it in. I'm just going to build this up. We're going to drop some Payne's grey on this as well, and then tone it with a bit of Payne's grey. Now I'm just going to darken this off and use a bit of the this is a very light mix. So that's the background in, just built up nice and light. I'm going to let this dry off. just mask the inner out, so now we can take the inner away, and that will leave us a nice clean image to work on this piece. The next section you're going to see is going to be a time lapse. We're going to start on the eyes, so I'm just going to start working on the eyes, get the eyes worked in, and then we'll start dropping the tones on the face, get all the face in, and then I'll do a little bit of real time, a little bit of time lapse, and we'll work it through like that. So I've just used the Infinity Graudes 02 20 psi. Could have upped it a little bit because it was grainy a tiny bit. It just needed that little bit more air, which gave it a nice background to work from. So I'll see you in the time lapse. Right guys, a pause, and I've sort of flew on the time lapse. I've got the music going, I'm just getting into it. Now I ended up doing the face in colour. I was going to do like a sort of like the monotony looking at, but then I just started doing the eyes and I thought, you know what, I'll just continue on. And I used a red, I used the Wicked Red, just straight red, just going in really light and just lightly putting it down, and then went in with some like darks, mixed a couple of drops of black in with the red and just toned it in. So we've got that sort of first pass in there, we've got that face in. The next thing I'm going to work on this will be, I might start the hair next and just start working in the hair, and then we'll get the hat in. And I'm going to use the Payne's Grey for her top, because that's got like that blue colour in it, so we can do the Payne's Grey on that. But just sort of chipping away with it, just getting really into it and just doodling basically, just puffing the paint in, just working nice and small, look at the reference and get it as close to the reference as you can. That's all we got to do. Went in with a Posca paint pen just to drop the highlights in, just to sharpen some bits up, and we can go back in and just pop some of the highlights as we're working along with the Posca paint pen, so it's nice and easy. So the next bit, I'll do the hair, do a little bit of real time on the hair, move the camera and we'll just do a little bit of real time on the hair. It's got like a grey sort of tone, so I'm going to mix like a grey up. I might use the grey that I've got mixed. I'll drop a bit of grey on the back for a start. We'll try this, see what it's like. I'll drop a pass down with this, and then we'll just work it up. Just drop a tone down and just work one on top and just build it up and build it up. Nice and light. Takumi's running really nice with the FW mix with the isopropanol. It just works really well with that. And as you can see, this is it's a cheap cartridge paper, so it's just absorbing. So you can't do any erasing or get your highlights with scratching back or anything like that. You're just sort of going straight airbrushing in and just working it up. So I'll move in closer and we will crack on. Just make it your own, guys. You've not got, don't stress if it's not mirror matching the reference. I used to beat myself up and like, oh, it's not exactly the same, and oh, just don't worry. As long as you get it as close as. Let's clean this brush out and go back in with the black. And just drop some lines in here. These are like all little lines. I don't know what this is on the actual image. It's part of medical equipment, but it's just loads of little lines. Darker in here. That'll do, we're getting there. Just chipping away, that's all you gotta do, is just chip away at it, a little bit at a time. I'll get these in now. And these are just little lines going across. I don't know whether that's picking that up on the camera, but these are very, very sort of little fine hair strands coming out on that. Right guys, a little pause and a chat through on where I've been and what I've been doing, because I probably missed some on the time lapse. Just sort of get into it and you end up forgetting to press record, all the camera beeps and the battery's gone. So I've worked the hair in, I've worked this band in here, I've just used a shield like that going round and worked the black band in. And then I've gone in with some white and just dropped a little bit of white on the hair strands coming out. Drop the darks in here, we've worked down these pieces here, drop the chain in, basically one colour black, and then I'm popping the highlights out of the Posca paint pen over the top to make them pop forward. So the next thing I'm going to do on this is, I'm going to work the red on the top of the V here, and she's got like a little, I think this is like an earpiece that you plug into your ear that goes here on the top. I'm going to work the red in on that, do this piece here, work the red in on the cross, so all the red pieces are done. There's a little teeny bit of red in the middle of that. Drop that in, drop the red on the cross while I've got the red in the brush. So everything red, I'll just drop in when I've got the paint in the brush. And then we're going to start working the rest of this piece in. And this piece here, the stethoscope piece here coming down with the darks in the black. That'll just be black, working this in black, doing the tones with the black. And then the buttons on there in the black. And then I can start concentrating on the Payne's grey and then working in all the creases on the top. The Payne's grey coming up into the top of the hat here. And then we're about done. We'll just be doing a little bit more tidying up, a little bit more highlights in the hair, and we'll be done. So it's sort of straightforward. You just got to look at the pieces as you go down and just concentrate on the piece. I'm sort of jumping a bit. I've sort of working my way down. There's going to be a little bit more flesh tone in here, just a little bit darker. But when I've got the red in, this is going to go darker in here as well. Once I've got the red, if I want to knock the red back, I'll just drop a little thinned out drop of the black, because this black that I've got is really, really thin. I'll just tone the red back, just drop a little bit of black in it, darken it off, and then work in. So that's what we're going to do. So you're going to see this in the time lapse. We're going to work these pieces in next, and then we'll work round the reds, do all the red bits, and then just start working the top. Nice and easy, just work it nice and light, and you're building the layers up. When it comes to the creases on the top, just go in really light. Don't aim to get a solid, where you see a crease where it's dark straight away. Don't hit it dark straight away. Just go in really light and build the outer of the crease up, and then just do passes over the centre and just build it up nice and light. So I'll see you in the next time lapse. There you go guys, we are all done. Sorry about the complete time lapses, but it took quite a while and it would have been way too much footage if I kept doing pauses and long talk throughs. But I've just chipped away at it, and that's all you've got to do is just chip away, work your way around, and then I've sort of been bouncing from putting the highlights in, going back in, doing a bit more shading, going back in, and just sort of keep working it. And I've come to the point where I thought, yep, it's looking like the image, job done. And I was going to do this in like monochromatic and just do the red on the bits here and here, and the rest of it was just going to be one tone. But then I ended up going in colour because I started to do some colour in the eyes, and I thought, you know what, I'll go for colour. So we blasted it out. So the last thing to do is just give the brush a clean out. I've not suffered with hardly any tip dry painting this, and I've probably been about 3 hours stop start, when I had something to eat, came back and then chipped away at it again. But the brushes work absolutely fine. We've used the custom Micron Takumi. It's worked really nice, lovely trigger, and you can get some, you can just put the paint where you want it because it atomises and real softly puts the paint down. And that's the beauty of these brushes. So I hope you've enjoyed it and learnt a little bit, just even if you're looking at the time lapse and that little pause that we had along the way. You can see how I worked it, and just sort of very lightly, because you can't do any erasing or anything like that. You're just airbrushing straight in on paper that is very absorbent. But the beauty of the inks, when you thin them down, really thin them down, they work like it's an opaque, but you're working it like a transparent, so you can just really softly put it down and then just build the tone up and build the tone up. And we've only used Payne's grey, white, black, red, yellow, and I used a mixed grey. I made like a grey just to drop in on the hair, and that's it. Job done. It's down, and you're just building them sort of tones up by overlaying them and overlaying them. So that's the brush blasted through, a little bit of thinners, job done, and that's spraying nice and clear. And that's all you got to do at the end of your airbrush session. Give your brush a good clean through. Can go back on the shelf. So the zombie nurse is done. So I hope you've enjoyed it. Drop your comments, guys. Tell me your thoughts. And I will see you all in the next one. If you are new to the channel and you're liking this sort of content, click that subscribe, press the notification. Cheers, guys.